Was it worth the stress? Absolutely yes. And also no. Yes, if you're ordering from Tropicals Plants, it's absolutely worth it because the stress level of this acclimation process on a scale of 1 to 5 was at a 1, the literal lowest it could possibly be. Now, if we're talking about any other company, we're gonna have to take that on a case-by-case basis. My name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel, Plants and Tings. Let me show you how these plants are doing after 3 months of importing them. So it has been about 3 months since I imported my plants from Tropicals Plants. If you are not familiar with this company and this is your first time looking into them, I'm here to tell you right now, look no further, you have found an excellent company to import plants from. If you've not looked into them, you've never heard of them before, go down to the description below and click on the link and place you an order. The first plant that I have to show you guys has been doing well from the very beginning. Like, I really feel like it was the first plant to put out a leaf and new roots. My anthuriums, it's an anthurium, my anthuriums imported very, very well. Even the roots, they did not barely need any touch-ups or snipping or rerooting or nothing like that. And this definitely was the first plant to put out a leaf, and this one was the first one to graduate out of the bin. So that first plant is my Anthurium BESSEAE, as you guys have probably seen in the thumbnail, looking gorgeous. Listen, gorgeous doesn't mean perfect, okay? Just because it's a little crispiness is around the edges, it's still gorgeous, okay? Gorgeous does not equal perfection. But anywho, look at the venation, the electrifying venation. This is exactly why I wanted this plant, because of its venation. It's like, what do you call this? Depth, pillowiness. Can you see it from the back? How the depths and pillowiness of it. I'm gonna, of course, pop in a picture of when this leaf was emerging. It was the most amazing thing I have ever experienced in my life. I love watching anthuriums grow in general, but this plant, at every stage as the leaf changed colors a little bit more and more as it was developing, was literally mind-blowing. I took so many pictures for like a week straight watching this leaf come out. Like, oh my gosh. The other leaf here is an import leaf. I had 2 other leaves. I believe it came with 3 and 1 emerging. So it came with 4 total. The one that was emerging was still, I think it was still furled. Was it still furled? No, it was unfurled, but it was still that golden color because it wasn't hardened off yet, but it just didn't make it. It died very quickly, like within the next 1 to 2 days. And then when this leaf came out, I lost the other bigger leaf in another leaf. I don't care, because this leaf, and I don't even really like those 1-leaf anthuriums, but this leaf is worth it. I really don't mind having only 1 leaf with this plant because it's so gorgeous. I had it living on my glass shelf for the longest, but I was worried that it was going to get bleached, so I moved it to my L-shaped shelf that is near my window, but it's on the side that's not facing the window. So it gets enough light from the overhead grow light, but not too much. And look at it. Hold on, let's keep it steady. Look at it. I don't know if it's reflecting the way I like how it be reflecting in the light, but if it's not, I'm gonna put up the video because trust me, I got tons of videos. And this sinus is just, needless to say, this is one of my favorite plants. This actually was not a part of my original order. The order was a bundle of fuzzy petio plants. And then I found out they had this plant and I had to email him and let him know, throw that in a bag also. So that's how I ended up with this plant. They have several different types of BESSEAE. I'm probably gonna have to give me another one because it's gorgeous. And the roots that you guys saw in that picture as well, here they are, looking amazing. Roots, adventitious roots up here. I don't know if y'all can see these adventitious roots wrapped around the container. So when I unpotted this, the roots looked very much like this. Well, the older roots, these are newer roots. All of these roots here are new. The older ones are these green ones down here, but my point is that they look great. So the very next day, 1 or 2 days, I just potted it up into leca. And it's been doing fine ever since. And like I said, this was the first plant to put out a leaf, which was so surprising to me. I thought it was going to be the toughest and the slowest, but by far it was not. This leaf did start to yellow as we moved it out, but it's just the name of the game. It's gonna have to be acclimated to living in room temperature because I have nowhere else to put it. So that's the first plant. Definitely started off with a good one. Let's go to another one here. This one, let's just keep with the theme of anthuriums here. And that is my Anthurium VEITCHII. Not looking so great. And yes, I know it's very shiny, very greasy. I went a little crazy with the neem oil. Once I realized it worked, I just greased everything down. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry. Oh, is it putting on it's putting out a new leaf. Because I was about to say how much I really wasn't enthused about this plant anymore, but it is putting out a new leaf there, guys, right? Where is it? Here, putting out a new leaf. That increases my, you know, care a little bit. Anytime I see a plant growing, that does bring me some excitement. But, you know, what disappointed me a little bit about this plant, I still like it, and I know it's my fault that it looks this greasy, but what disappointed me a little bit about this plant is how these size of these leaves, like how sensitive they were. This was in my bin. This crisping did not happen because I moved it outside of my bin. This happened in the bin while it was, I don't even think, which one is the newest leaf? This one is the newest leaf. So it wasn't even a new leaf or anything expanding. It was just because it was touching other leaves in the bin that all of a sudden it wanted to act like this. It had another, I think the other leaf it had was larger than this. Was it? Or was this the largest leaf? I really can't remember right now, but I know it lost the leaf, which I don't really, oh, it did lose a lower leaf. This tip crisped up. This one is in the process of crisping, so I ended up cutting this one and then this one. I just didn't expect this to be as sensitive as it is, so that's kind of like deterring me. Like I assumed it's not velvety, it'll be a trooper. Not true. And the leaves are not super thin either, but for whatever reason, he's a little sensitive. The king is a little sensitive, and it's a little off-putting because I wasn't expecting that. So not so much exciting stuff going on with this plant. Hopefully the new leaf will re-excite me about it, but the roots are usual. No insanely, you know, no insane root growth like my BESSEAE, but it was in pretty much the same state where it was looking amazing when it came out. The roots looked great. I know I did some little bit of root chopping of dead or broken roots, but it wasn't anything crazy at all. But yeah, this one is just not as a fast grower. You don't see any adventitious roots around the top here. I have not repotted this since the very first time I did when I got it 3 months ago. And it still just kind of looks like this. It did give me one leaf, I think this one here. But, you know what? Now that I think about it and I look at this leaf, it is hopeful that this new leaf does not have any like crisping or anything, because now that this developed in my general room humidity, I feel like that means that future leaves that come out of this plant will do better. I'm hopeful. We're hopeful for this one. So this next one might look like it's in bad shape, but it's really not. It's just going through a bit of a process, and the process, I'm going through it a little bit late. So to explain, we're talking about my VERRUCOSUM platinum, and yes, it is much smaller, but this is not, that's all that's left of the plant. There's actually 2 pieces in here. Yesterday or last week or a few days ago, whatever it is by now, I chopped my VERRUCOSUM. I'll put it on the screen. It was one long vine. I wasn't happy with the way that it looked. I tried to air layer it. Only the top note took, but I really only gave it 2 weeks, so it didn't have time to really do what it needed to do. So because the top note, it rooted pretty well, the rest of the plant, the nodes did not root very well. I took 1 node and threw it in a prop box, or was it 2? It's either 1 or 2 nodes, threw that in a prop box, and this is the top cut that we have here, looking very beautiful. And then the bottom cut is here, the one that had the roots. So I just put them together, and hopefully it'll produce some great little leaves. And actually, I believe this might be some new root growth. I'm not sure. It looks a little fuzzy there and here. So it might be doing something already in this chunky perlite. Y'all know I love the chunky perlite. And then the other 2 leaves, which were the import leaves, they're honestly looking worse and worse by the day. I'm not sure why. It might need more light. I decided to just throw it in with some other water props. they do look really sad. It did not look this bad a couple of days ago. I don't know why it declined so quickly after being chopped, but these are the 2 import leaves that only came with 2 leaves, and they were honestly holding on for dear life from the beginning. I think it was something like this. It was holding on for dear life from the beginning. It wasn't like they were doing so well. So once I chopped it, it just really starts to decline. But we got the 2 nodes here. So if these leaves decline, throw them in the prop box with the other node. And I still have the other leaf and the base. Like, I have so much of it. But me and VERRUCOSUMs, we got a love-hate relationship. I'm just getting on good terms with my other ones. But we're gonna try, because I can't just throw stuff out. So that's how the VERRUCOSUM Platinum is doing. Not looking very platinum, actually looking very yellow, but it is what it is. Back into the water it goes until I decide to do something else with it. I might just put it somewhere else. I might just need to give it, I don't know what it wants. So this next plant has really turned out to be the star of the show. Like, I wasn't even checking for this plant when I placed the order. I saw that it was a part of the bundle and I was like, okay, it's cute, but I'm not here for it, until I got it and I was blown away. And I've still been blown away the entire time. This plant has put out the most leaves and the most roots. And that plant is my Genevievianum. Look at this beauty. I've been so hyped for this plant. Not because it's growing. Look at the size of these new leaves. Let me tell y'all which ones is the new leaf so y'all can know what I'm saying right here, okay? This one here, you can't even tell that it's a new leaf. You know why? Because it's so big. Usually, you know, after you import a plant, your new leaf after import might look a little crazy. It might be a little small. These 2 were the 2 leaves that I got in my care after importing it. Insane. Like, oh my goodness. I just think it's amazing. Get out the way. Let it get its shine. Like, oh my God. I love this plant. Not to mention the fuzzy petioles. They're not on fuzz, like serpent level fuzz, but they're still fuzzy and it's still pretty satisfying, the fuzz on this. I like the green on green. I like the ribbing that it has. It has a nice subtle, but still I'm here veining. It's nice. It's muted, but it's nice. Like, if you guys know the Syngonium chia pens, it's giving me that same, I know it doesn't look the same, but it's giving me that same muted, but I'm here, don't sleep on me vibe. Like, oh, this Genevievianum is just, I love it. I love, love, love this plant. It takes up half my shelf because it's just gorgeous. The leaves are going all different ways because at one point in the bin, the leaf started to come out one way and I took it out and the light was another way. I don't know. I don't care. It's just a big, bushy, beautiful girl. We are so here for her. These roots that are here are mostly moss roots. So I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous. When I first imported the plant, I put it into chunky perlite and it was half chunky perlite and half moss. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't want it to be like that, but I ran out of chunky perlite. So I had no choice but to cover the rest of the chunk in moss. All of the chunk that rooted was in the moss portion of the substrate and it was insane trying to get all of the moss off the roots. As you know, with philodendrons, it's just a treacherous task. And I don't think, I want to say the bottom part of the chunk that was in the chunky perlite, I don't think it put out very many roots at all because it was putting so much energy into those roots that were towards the top of the chunk in the moss. And so all of these roots are moss roots. I don't know how it's going to fare. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I don't see anything getting dark or mushy. It's been in this for a little while, so I'm probably going to let it air all the way out before I decide to water it again. I'm gonna let it dry out completely, kind of like how I do my Monstera albo. I think I'm gonna treat it like that until I see some new root growth because I'm nervous and I don't want to lose this plant. It's gorgeous. I do think this plant is also technically a climber, but it's probably not going to climb with me. And I don't think it needs to. It looks gorgeous just like this, like a little bouquet. I like that it's kind of doing a little 360 thing. I just have no complaints for this plant. This leaf, then this is the newest leaf. Oh my goodness. It's not even completely hardened off yet. Love this plant. These are the oldest leaves, obviously. Like, look at the size difference. These are the leaves they came with, and this is the leaf they gave me. Like, what? Where does that happen? Where does that happen that you import plants and the very first leaf that you get in your care is double the size of the import leaf? Like, it hasn't happened for me before, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I haven't seen it before. I'm sure it's happened, but I haven't heard nobody talk about it. So if it's happened to you, please let me know in the comments below and let me know where you ordered that plant from. So this next plant is actually looking the craziest of all the plants. It's looking quite crazy, but even though it looks crazy, it's actually doing very well. And that is my Philodendron serpens. Yes, it looks crazy, but this, we're gonna have to check on this because this won't perk up. But this had the most issues with importing. All the other plants had barely any issues with VERRUCOSUM, but this one was declining very quickly. It wasn't really taking up the water. I think I had potted it in chunky perlite and I had it on a stake similar to how I had my VERRUCOSUM set up, but like I said, it just wasn't bouncing back at all. So I felt the need to chop it. I chopped it at every node and had several one leaf cuttings, and I just placed it in water until I saw it producing roots. I want to say I lost the bottom cut because when I did repot this out of the chunky perlite into the leca, I didn't have any bottom cut. I did, however, have a chunk that I completely forgot about until I went to go, what was I doing? I don't know how I found it. I completely forgot about it until I looked at my prop box one day and saw that there was a chunk coming that had a fuzzy petiole coming out of it. And I'm like, what is that? Turns out it was a serpent. So I had an extra little baby serpent, which is this one here, I believe, this little tiny one here. And it does have a new leaf it's working on. I don't know if you can see it through the glass here, but it's working on a new leaf already. So like I said, it looks crazy. It does, but don't sleep on it because it's gonna come back. This other little leaf is attached to one of these larger leaves here. So this is an import leaf. This is an import leaf. One of these tiny ones had a leaf that died off, and then the other one is a part of a big chunk. So we need to actually check on this one because as you can see, it's just very limp. It's not like these here that are very firm. So that's how you can kind of tell usually if something's going on with your plant. I want to say it does have small roots on it, but let's see why it's looking like that. Okay, it has pretty decent roots. So I don't know why this leaf is so sad because okay, so let's see what's going on here. So this was the growth point coming out, but I don't know if that's gonna die off because it looks like something is coming out there. Okay, I mean, it does only have 2 roots, but they have secondary roots. So the tip is kind of sort of black. Let me see. It's dried. The tip is dried. Okay, I'm gonna cut this tip off. I'm gonna cut this tip off because it's very dry to the touch. And I might put it in water to let it perk back up, and then once it perks back up, then I'll replant it with the rest of these cuttings. But you can see on the other side here, these roots are doing pretty good. It rooted pretty well when I had it in water. And then after it had a decent amount of roots, I put it into chunky perlite, and it's only probably been in this for like a week. So I know that these are fine because they're perky. It's just this one. So I'm gonna throw this into the same water that I have my VERRUCOSUM in. And I'm gonna wait for that leaf to perk up before I put it back into that pot. And that's the beauty about semi-hydro, is that it's really easy to kind of like switch gears, you know. So now I kind of have to switch gears for a little bit with that plant, take that out. But when it's ready, I can just throw it back in and it won't do too much disturbance to the plant. So if you guys saw the unboxing of this order, you will know that this is a wish list plant for me. I have always wanted the serpens ever since I knew about it. I just think it's such a cool looking plant. So yes, mine looks a little battered, but I'm not upset. I think it's gonna be great. It is, like I said, the one that fared the worst in the acclimation process, but I got 4 plants out of it. So how bad can that be? You know, and it's still actively growing. So I'm really not worried. worried. I'm really excited to see the growth of it. I am a little worried about how it's gonna do in regular room humidity, but we're gonna have to see. We're just gonna have to see because there's no way it can fit in my little cabinet. So, and I don't plan on getting a bigger one. So yeah, that is how it is doing. It hasn't had any pest issues. Mind you, I did though, when I very first repotted them, I did spray them down. I sprayed all of them down with that same oil. So that's why I don't really know why that VEITCHII ended up looking like that, because all of these got sprayed down with the same can, but whatever. So this last plant turned out to be my absolute favorite. During the unboxing is when I realized that this is my favorite plant of 2023. Is it better than my Majestic? It might be. The point is, this is the favorite plant in the order. But even though it was my most favorite plant, it did not grow the best. It was just really slow. It didn't put out new roots or new leaves for a very long time. And I want to say it only started growing within the last month. Even the roots, it just wasn't doing anything. I didn't change anything at any time. It was in the same circumstances as all the other plants in the same bin, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't doing a thing. I was starting to get a little worried, but the only reason I didn't freak out is because it wasn't dying either. So I just had to patiently wait. And that plant is the Philodendron SQUAMICAULE. Not blushing, but SQUAMICAULE. I believe the blushing has the red backs and this doesn't have that, but it does have this crazy red petiole. Like, this green and red combo is what does it for me. Like, it's like the Genevievianum but better, you know. And it's not because of the shape, it's just the style, because this type of fuzz is different from this type of fuzz, right? Like, this is much longer and fibrous, and this one is more dense and compact, kind of like the Genevievianum, but it's red. So that just makes it pop to me against these dark green leaves. So that is why it is my favorite. I love the features of this plant. I know this leaf is looking a little janky, but listen, it's still hanging on. It still gives us the beautiful dark features. I love this plant. So this obviously is the newest leaf, the one that I put out in my care after acclimation. And I think for it to be my first leaf in this care, it came out a good size. Now, it had one more leaf that was way bigger than this one that it came with, but it was already yellowing before I even opened the box. So that one, I tried to hold on to it for the longest. I actually ended up just cutting it in half because I didn't want to give it up because it was just so big. You could just see the beauty that it once had. But I eventually just had to cut it off. So I was so happy it finally put out a leaf. It did come out lighter than this, so it is starting to darken. I'm happy about that because that is what I like about this plant, the dark green leaves. So, but again, look at this size. It came out to be a nice size for the first leaf, so I'm very happy with it. And the roots are really good as well. And oh, these are new roots. Okay, so we put this into LECA, like I said, maybe a week ago. And the roots are already developing a bit more. Very good, very good. Okay, this is good. I was a little worried, but it's doing okay. We got some secondary roots coming in over here. So yeah, this was again in chunky perlite for the longest over the whole 3-month period. I think it was only in water for the first 1 to 2 days. And it finally started doing something. And it looks so good. So this is my favorite. This is the one I'm most excited to grow. And it's funny, it's my favorite, but I don't quite have a spot for it. I just kind of have it. If you can see this like TV stand, I have it on my TV stand because I don't want it to get too much light. Like, I have a nice glass shelf, but I have a light up top that's really strong, and I don't want it to get too much and it not be dark. I want the leaves to stay dark and gorgeous. So I'm gonna keep it a little bit off to the side and just monitor it and make sure that that's not going to be too much light for it. But that is how it's doing. Very in love with this plant. My #1 favorite. I do still want the blushing because why not? But I don't have room for that, but I will still take it. God dang train, come on now. So that is the SQUAMICAULE. It is my favorite. I love the leaves. I love the color combo. It's finally starting to take off for me. So I feel like it's only up from here. So again, I'll answer the questions that I answered in my first update video that I did for another company. I did like a 6-month update, and the big question is, was it worth it? And from Tropicals Plants, 100% yes. When I talked about my other one, I was kind of like yes and no, yes if this, no if that. Tropicals is hands down yes all the way. It is absolutely worth it. I will be ordering from them again. So like everything, even the plants that had the worst case scenario are still pretty good, because a lot of the times, which did happen to me, you are reduced to nodes, and I didn't even get reduced to nodes on any of these plants. So it's 100% worth it. I'm very happy with my order. It's worth the money. They always have sales. And I've talked to some people that, you know, they have these live sales on Instagram like every week. And what they do is if you purchase a plant in the live sale, they'll do a giveaway during the live sale. So if you make a purchase or you say sold to something, you get entered into a drawing to win another plant for free. So you bought a plant, you might get a plant for free. Buy one, get one. You know we love the deals. Always here for the deals. I haven't done it myself because they just started doing this auction thing, this live auction thing, after I placed my order, like literally a week later, and I was like, I'm cleaned out. I can't. Like I will just watch for funsies, but I'm not dipping my toe into that. But I just like to see, because the type of plants and the quality and the size, like it's just mind blowing. So stay tuned, because there is a pop-up for them that they had here in Dallas, and I did record it. So I will be sharing that with you guys as well. And I did get a plant from there. So look out for that. In the meantime, you can watch this video here.